Hi, I'm Lynn Donaldson, CEO of Connect Strategic Solutions Group. We are product launch enablers for the pharma and medical devices companies and have been for the last 10 years. We partner with life science launch teams to go to market more effectively, driven by our 3 framework pillars of people, product, and process. Working with clients including Fortune 500 companies, we noticed them struggling with unwieldy Excel sheets to capture their launch strategy and detailed implementation plans, which needed to be translated for leadership. This is time-consuming, resulting in launches going over budget by thousands of dollars. A solution was needed. My good friend Rajiv was the perfect strategic partner, given his e-commerce product development background, and together we created Lylli LaunchTools. Rather than losing hours each week because your Excel sheets or software is failing you, use Lylli LaunchTools, which is easy to use in order to effect highly successful pharma and devices launches.
Welcome to Lylli LaunchTools, the first strategic pharma product launch planning software of its kind, designed to completely uncomplicate the process of developing and capturing your launch plan. Lylli LaunchTools is built for global corporations large or small and allows for seamless collaboration across functional teams and time zones. With real-time reporting and metrics tracking available on a user-friendly dashboard, your launch teams and stakeholders will have all the information they need to manage their launch activity.
Could you use an expert set of hands to guide you because your product launch is too important to fail? Lylli LaunchTools helps save time, ultimately saving you thousands of dollars. I'm Lynn Donaldson, CEO of Connect Strategic Solutions Group. We know how critical the success of your product launch is to you, your team, your company, and to your patients. What we want to do is welcome you enormously for joining us and spending this time with us. We're going to be conscious of time and trying to get through this because we want to really hear from you. So I'm Lynn Donaldson from Connect Strategic Solutions Group, and you can see the handsome fella next to me is Rajiv Jadhav, and we are partners in developing Lylli LaunchTools. Today, we're going to really talk about how to make your pharmaceutical or medical device product launch more efficient. We're going to have 3 or 4 polls that we'd really like your input, and then we're going to talk in between, but it's relevant to the polls. We're going to react to the polls. So let's get cracking and see with the first question. Can you guess how much a pharmaceutical company can make from their product launch if it goes well? Now, the answer, we're going to take a quick poll. So again, it's going to be a poll that's going to appear on your screen. Can you all see my screen? Is it visible? Is the poll visible?
Yeah, I can see the poll.
Please press what you think a pharmaceutical company can make at launch. Now, we're focused on our pharmaceutical company for this question, but of course, the same applies to a medical devices company. Okay, so we've had 4 people vote so far, 5. Interesting. Everybody can see the responses, right? Good. Okay. Interesting. And of course, it depends obviously on the product, but let's see what people come back with. So thank you very much for everybody for voting. You can see the answers as they come up, and that's a very interesting response, the 1 billion and the 2 billion. Interesting. So most people went for the 1 billion. And okay. So let's go back to the presentation, because the actual answer is $1 billion. Now that can be more. So those that answered 1 billion or those that answered 2 billion are around the right ballpark figure. That's a lot of money, but you need to get certain things right to do that, to achieve that. And we'll talk through that in a little minute. So I guess it might have shocked some of you, but most people voted for the over 1 billion. So I think we kind of can take this out. Most people know what it's going to look like. But can you guess how long it takes to launch or a drug or a medical device into the US market? Now, we've got some people from the industry in the audience, so thank you very much. So you've kind of got a head start, which is good. So we're going to take another poll, and All right, let's go to the poll 2, which is time to launch. Can you all see how long you think it takes for a pharmaceutical product to get to launch? Now, just while we're doing that, pharmaceutical products and medical device products follow slightly different paths. So we've chosen one, but only from the point of view of rather than making it too complex with two different things. Interesting. We've got 8 years, 5 years, 5+ years. Interesting. 3, 6. So 6 people voting. Thank you very much for your voting. Anybody else want to vote before we go on? Okay, let's see the results. So majority by 1, I guess that's an N of 1, said 8+ years. So let's have a look. And again, back to the presentation. I wonder if there's a way of doing this a little bit more smoothly. We'll work on that. It's at least 8 years. But why is that? A product has to go through, from conception, it has to go through preclinical and then through clinical. All I'm showing here is the clinical phases. So a pharmaceutical product has to go through extensive testing to make sure it's safe above all and that it's efficacious. So you can see here the different phases, and phase 1 is human volunteers, phase 2 is patients with the condition, a small number of patients, phase 3 is a large number of people with the condition. And at that point, at each point, you're trying to test for safety, because safety is above all what you're needing to make sure that the product is safe. Once you get FDA approval, because you have to submit all this information to the FDA, you can then, once you have approval, and not until then, can you launch your product. And then, of course, afterwards, you're looking for anything that might pop up, adverse events. But what makes a product launch process in a pharmaceutical company? We've looked at 5 best practices for making your product launch more efficient and easier to manage. Number 1 of the best practices, you really need the right team to develop the strategy. So who sits around the table, who's inputting into that strategy? Now, strategy work starts around phase 2, if you remember the diagram before. So you're thinking about, how do I launch this product effectively and efficiently? So you need the right people around the table. That might be clinical and marketing and medical. You need, of course, the right strategy, the team to develop the strategy, and then the right strategy that goes with it, and the right tool to capture that strategy. And that's kind of where we're going to talk to you a little bit about. Rajiv's going to explain a little bit more about that. You need the right planning details. It's very important that you get all your details correct to make sure that when you're launching effectively. And then the right implementation team. And that might be different from the people who develop the strategy, because you've got to implement this strategy. And so some people may be better at tactics and really pull the tactics through. Systems are critical for when you're putting together a launch plan or developing your strategy and then implementing that strategy. Most pharmaceutical companies and devices companies start with goals. What do we want to achieve? Is that a dollar value? Is that a number of patients, etc.? So they start with goals and they ladder down through objectives, strategy, tactics, and key activities. And it's important that you remember this diagram, because Rajiv's going to go through it in a minute. Again, you're going to bring it back, because key activities, you really need to know why you're doing something. It's okay doing an advisory board or putting an advertising promotion out or something like that, but you've got to know why you're doing something so it ladders back up to the goals. And remember, the key thing about pharmaceutical is you're not allowed to promote your product in any way until you have FDA approval. So a key activity may be raising awareness about the disease area or about the condition. Rajiv, I'm going to hand over to you, kind sir.
Awesome. So here's another, I think another forthcoming poll, but the question that we'd like to know is any guesses on what tools companies use to manage this often long and tedious process? You could put your answers or guesses in the chat if you like. And yeah, let's go to the next slide. So these are some usual suspects that I'm sure you're already familiar with. When it comes to email and communication, you have Microsoft Outlook, Slack, Teams, Zoom, phone call, etc. With spreadsheets, it's Excel and Google Sheets. For project management softwares, there's Monday, Wrike, Microsoft Project, etc. For documentation resources, there's notepads, there's voice recordings, Zoom, and of course, the good old hard copy printouts. So these are some of the tools that many clients are currently using in some variation. Next. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, now we'd like to launch a poll to assess your experience with these tools.
Okay. So the question is, the tools I use for managing my launch process make me sad, frustrated, giddy with delight, and I don't have a tool. Please submit your answer. We've got one answer. Anybody else? Cool. Okay. Anybody else want to answer before I start? I mean, I think you can all see the response. So the response is that most people, or the 4 people that have responded, thank you very much, don't have a tool. So let's go back to the slideshow.
Yeah, so what's the problem? Next slide.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the problem, there are a few problems. The first is fragmentation. So what do I mean by fragmentation? Fragmentation means that the information that you're trying to collate to report on exists in a variety of places. For example, if you're either a program manager, a process manager, a team leader, or somebody who's trying to drive the process forward, and if part of your role involves reporting statuses to internal or external stakeholders, then you might want to initially refer to an Excel sheet to find out what the status of said process is. In order to access the Excel sheet, maybe you need to log. Can we go back to the earlier slide? Yeah. So the information might exist in a variety of places. It could be Excel. It could be Outlook to find out the latest status. It could be going to Slack to find out what people are saying about it. It could even be a DM. It could be your notes that you took in your notebook. And you're just trying to collate all this information from a variety of places. And sometimes this may require the cooperation of your team members. And maybe your team members are available, maybe they're not, maybe they're out of the office, maybe they're on vacation, they're sick, or just generally unavailable because they're busy. So if this is all that you have to deal with on an ongoing basis, because reporting is a recurring situation, this is something that you'll be doing either on a monthly or quarterly basis at least, then this could create a little bit of stress, overwhelm, frustration, and of course, more importantly, delays. So fragmentation is one of the issues. The second issue is confusion, because some of these tools like Wrike or Monday or Microsoft Project can have a pretty steep learning curve. And this could cause delays because you're just trying to figure out how to use this thing. And if it's super complicated, that could create a lot of delays and create a lot of unnecessary stress and overwhelm. Yeah, and thirdly, like Lynn has shared previously, it's super, super important for your tool to be able to correctly map your goals to your tactics and key activities. The reason is that your tactics and key activities are what you're using to achieve those goals. And if you don't have a line of sight or a visibility as to how these tactics and key activities actually link or ladder up to your goals, then there's a risk or a likelihood that all this time, effort, money that you're spending in trying to achieve those goals may not happen. Because if you're not able to actually see if there's any sort of a linkage between what you're looking to execute and what you're looking to achieve. Next slide. Yes, so for your easy recollection, this is the typical elements in any product launch. So whether you're doing a product launch with a pharmaceutical company, life science company, medical device company, technology company, like it doesn't really matter which industry you're in, but these are the broad elements in your product launch planning. So what choices exist today? So let's take a look at what those choices are. So we did a lot of research in the market, and we looked at all the top tools out there that are good at a few things, like Rike, Product Board, Asana, Monday, Basecamp, etc. And what we learned is that none of these have a focus on pharma, life science, or medical device as an industry. Lylli is the only one that does. So that's like the first difference right off the bat. The second, and quite notable, is that none of these tools are able to accurately map your goals with your tactics and key activities. None of them. They just don't offer that feature right now. Lylli does. And then thirdly, none of the tools are offering both Kanban and Gantt chart as a feature for mapping timelines and reporting statuses. So that's one difference. The second difference is that many of them discriminate these features based on the size of user, size of team, and or the subscription tier that you might have selected. We don't. So this is something that we're offering to all users, regardless of what team size you have or what subscription tier you select. So to summarize, companies today are specifically looking for a tool that is super easy to use, because this way then, the tool shouldn't add to your stress, right? The tool should alleviate your stress. It should expedite the process. So the company needs a tool that's easy to use, acts as a central repository so that all the information is in one place, as opposed to being in disparate places, which cause a lot of time wastage. A tool that offers data visualization just straight out the gate to help with your reporting needs. A tool that helps or expedites the communication and collaboration between team members. And lastly, like I've said, this is maybe the third or fourth time we're saying this, we can't stress enough the importance of this, a tool that allows you to map your goals with your key activities. That is super, super critical. Our mission is to re-engineer the product launch process, and we're looking to disrupt the space, and we're inviting all of you to join the revolution. So please join the revolution. And now we'd like to share a very brief demo to give you a quick overview. And like we've said before, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We're happy to answer them, either in real time or towards the end of the demo. I hand over back to Lynn.
Thank you. Can you all see the tool, Lylli LaunchTools, on your screen?
Yep.
Okay, good. So this is the overall tool. You've got dashboard, products, region management, workstream management, role management, user management, communication, tracker, monitor. We're going to go into, this is pre-populated with some dummy data that is realistic, shall we say. It is, I have chosen a proper product, but we haven't used a strategy that we have developed obviously for confidentiality reasons. But as you can see, if you look at the goal, objective, strategy, tactic, and then down to the key activities. So a key activity I mentioned earlier was key scientific panel, but it has to ladder back up to the goal, which is getting your stakeholders to believe in the benefit of the product. And it's important that every key activity has a real reason to do it. You can also see the timelines, whether a project is delayed or started. But as Rajiv said, what you can also see is a Kanban chart. It's going to take a little minute to load because there's a lot of data. but a Kanban chart that you can look at on a day basis or a month basis. And you can easily see where your products are at, where your projects, sorry, are at any one time. This is a global view, a global admin view. And just for those of you who are in the industry, nobody can see what they're not supposed to see. There are firewalls in place. So marketing can't see what medical are doing, and medical can't see what marketing are doing unless you specifically give them access. You can also see the view as a Kanban chart. As Rajiv said, this is one of the things that we do differently in that you can see it very easily. There's an at-risk or a delayed portion, but you can see very clearly where all your activities are. You can also communicate with one another on live. And so Rajiv and I have already got something set up where I can talk back to Rajiv and say, hello. If I've got a specific task that I want Rajiv to pick up, I can message him and tell him that I'd like you to, I've assigned you a different activity. Can you pick it up? So it's easy to communicate. You don't have to go backwards and forwards with email. And then also, you've got a dashboard that you can specifically design for yourself. So you can see my tasks, all the products. Global admin will be able to see all the products. Local admin will be able to see the products for that local area. And then within the teams, you will only be able to see the products that are actually assigned to you. Okay, it's a quick overview. And we would like to, we'd be happy to demonstrate for you on a one-to-one basis if you'd be interested for a private demo. We're going to do a quick poll, but are there any questions about the tool? Oops, sorry. Are there any questions about the tool before we get to the poll? And any questions? No? Okay. And right, so we'll take the final poll because we're interested in your key takeaways for the event and what we've just shared with you. So what are the key takeaways from the presentation? I definitely need a tool for my product launch. I learned some useful tips. I think my present tool is too complicated. I'd like a private demo for my team. I'm looking forward to the next webinar. Please answer the poll, and thank you. I learned some useful tips. And what I'll do is I'll try and open up the...
Oh, and just to add to that, this is a multiple choice question, unlike the other poll. So feel free to select all or a few of these as relevant.
And I am going to try and... Perfect, thank you. Anybody else would like to answer? We've got 4 people answered, or 4 questions answered so far. We look forward to hearing from you. Okay, so I learned some useful tips. That's helpful. Thank you. I am going to, oops. So next week we'll be answering product launch specific questions. So it's kind of a free consulting session, a 3 hours consulting. And if you have any questions that you want to share with me via email or get answered via email, please contact me at lynn@connectastrategy.com or text me. Are there any questions that anybody would like answered through the Q&A, or would you like me to unmute? We'd really love to hear from you. I'm going to try and unmute you. I might have to stop share. Oh, there we go. I'm going to unmute you all and allow you to talk. So please feel free to contribute if there's anything you would like to ask in person. We'd love to hear from you. Any questions? Oops. You're all muted again. That is interesting. I unmuted you all. Okay. Anybody have any questions, or you have to unmute if you want to ask a question? You have to unmute yourself. Any questions?
I noticed that Nicole unmuted herself. Nicole, did you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you for the information.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Did you want to see anything else, Nicole, or did anybody else want to see anything else on the tool? Because this is your time. I mean, we wanted to share the tool with you, but we wanted to give it context. That's why we talked about the number of sales, because the number of sales, or the amount of work that goes into a product launch, teams work extremely hard preparing for a launch. And it's important that in that preparation that they actually use a tool that helps them be more efficient, because there's so much going on, especially those last 6 months prior to launch, because we work with companies 3 years prior to launch, getting everything ready, and the goals can change. I'm going to go back to the tool 1 second, because I want to be able to talk to you about that tool a little bit more, because as I said, with the product, there's so much to do. Sorry?
Yeah, Lynn, just if I can add something. So just to kind of clarify what we mentioned in the last slide. So if any one of you is currently in the midst of any kind of a launch, about to start a launch, thinking of starting a launch, regardless of where you are in the process, if you'd like for us to kind of help you either privately or through a webinar like this, so that everyone can kind of see our work process, well, technically it could be some free publicity for you and your company and brand. If we do this in the webinar, then everyone will find out about your brand, or what you're looking to do, etc. So again, as an idea, obviously, if this is something that works for your current strategy, that's great. If you prefer a private conversation, that's fine too. But just let us know. We're here to assist with that process. And like I said, this is completely complimentary. All we're looking to do is kind of have that organic conversation with you to kind of find out how we can assist your existing process.
Okay, cool. So traditionally, most pharmaceutical medical devices companies will have 5 to 6 major goals at most. And then the objectives and the tactics. Now, there may be hundreds of tactics. We've only shown you a few here, but they ladder down to, or key activities, should I say. There could be hundreds of key activities. And when you're trying to pull together an Excel spreadsheet, that's a lot of lines, and the Excel spreadsheet gets a little bit unwieldy. Whereas this tool captures it, and you can easily adjust something. If you've got something that you want to edit, say you want to edit and you just want to add something, or you want to change the whole thing completely, you just edit it and then it comes up immediately. The same with any of the objectives, strategies, and the tactics or key activities. Does anybody want to offer any information as to why it's important to ladder down to the key activities, or have a question about that?
Also, while they're pondering on what they're about to say, Lynn, is it possible for you to magnify this so that we could kind of maybe zoom in a little bit? Is that possible?
I can try. Is that better?
Yeah, that's a lot better. Yeah.
Okay. So just so you can see the goal, the objective, strategy, tactic, and you see how they're all related. So you want to get your stakeholders on board. You want to build the recognition for the product. And then you want to really strengthen the scientific story. And this was done actually for a medical affairs team. You want to extend the research and evolve the scientific story beyond the mechanism of action, because different products have different mechanisms of action. And if you're first in class, what is called first in class, which is you have a very different mechanism of action, you want to get that story out there. So your activity may be, you know, the preclinical studies, but also gathering insights from your MSLs, which are medical science liaisons. They go out and they talk to potential customers about the area and about the therapy area and bring insights back into the company. The same with advisory panels. You want to hear from the experts about the therapy or about the therapeutic area and the challenges. What are their pain points? What do you need to put into your clinical trials down the line, maybe? Or what can you look at now? And then, of course, you might want global partnerships with advocacy groups, things like that. So this just shows key activities. But again, you can very easily see by the color coding whether something's at risk because you're coming close to launch and something hasn't been done. And then you can quickly go back to communication and chat to somebody and say, hey, we're a little bit behind on this, what's happening? But you can also go in and change if the finish date is later, or you want to change any of the other areas, you can go back in and edit. So you can see we've got five clear goals here. And that's usual, as I said, for a pharmaceutical company. You can use different regions. So if you've got regions outside the US, in the US, you just have to put them up front, and then different regions can see their own information. The work streams are about what is the function. So here you see medical affairs, market access, health economics, outcomes research, regulatory affairs. Everybody has their own information that they can see. And then you can assign a role by, again, what people can actually have access to using or to changing. And then, as I say, you can communicate. Now, if something doesn't happen to be online, so say Rajiv wasn't online, what you would do is send them an email that says, I've left you a message in the software, can you go pick it up? And then they can go back in and pick it up at a later date, so that you don't lose any of your messages. It doesn't just go into this big black hole. Again, are there any questions? Is there something you'd really like to see? And you can have multiple products at the same time. Now, we've extended this to, even if you use you go onto the free service, you can actually have more than one product. So you can really try it out and see how robust it is. And then your dashboard as a global admin, well, it just takes a little time sometimes. Maybe we'll come back to it. The snapshot at the top, you can pick up the snapshot to see exactly how many months you've got to go to launch for a particular product and a particular region. Now, for a global admin, this is really important, so they can check at any one time where you're at. You can also white label this product if you wanted to put your own logo up there, or you wanted to make it your own if you're an agency working with a company. So all in all, it's pretty robust software that's taken a little while to develop, but we're really proud of it. And we've already got people using the product, using Lylli LaunchTools, both in medical and pharmaceutical, medical devices and pharmaceutical. So I am going to go back to the question again. Did anybody want a demo for themselves or for their teams? Or if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or text me. And also next week, we'll be talking about the product launch process itself. We are actually doing podcasts at the moment where we're gathering information about how successful product launches and what people think goes into a successful product launch. So we'll be bringing through perhaps some of those ideas. Maybe, again, I can ask you if you found the, I can't relaunch it. I can't relaunch it. Okay, I was going to relaunch the poll. But if anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the Q&A or unmute yourself. We've allowed everybody to unmute. if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, and also if anyone is in the middle of a launch or thinking of doing a launch, if you want to put that in the chat as a question, just, like we want to keep this as interactive as possible. Please put that in the chat.
So,
in the chat or the Q&A. Yeah, in the Q&A.
okay, thank you. So we had, Bob, I think you came in a little bit late, and you thank you for letting us know. Was there anything that you missed that you'd like to go back to, or have you got any questions? I see Rajiv's answered you. And if you may not be doing a product launch at the moment, but at least if you have a product launch, having everything in one place, because sometimes people have information on this laptop and information on that laptop and information over here. And if somebody leaves, you're in real trouble. Even SharePoint sites, sometimes the information doesn't get uploaded. We've seen all these things because as we help our companies launch their products, we're often asked to relate all this information and pull it all together. We've been asked to use Excel sheets, we've been asked to use MS Project, and both of those can be very time consuming, and when you're paying consultants for their strategic input, it's not very cost effective for you to use us for putting spreadsheets in. But once we've got the information in the tool, we can very easily adapt it so that we can update things as you go. Again, if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. We've got about 15 minutes, so please feel free to ask any questions. Otherwise, we can let you have 15 minutes time back. Rajiv, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think, like, do we have all their email addresses? Because I know that Bob wanted to see the link of the recording. So if if anyone like Bob who would like to see a link of the recording, please put that in the chat so we can be alerted to send you the link, or maybe we'll send you the link to everyone who attended, so that you have it easily available and it's easy access to it.
Or you can text me or email me if you don't want to put your details in the chat. We understand, some people might not want to share it across the group in the chat. So feel free to email me, text me with your email, and we'll make sure, because I think, Bob, you wanted the recording, so happy to do that. Okay, well, we really appreciate your time. Hopefully we didn't go through things too quickly. We wanted to give plenty of time for people to interact or to ask questions. But if there are no further questions, Rajiv, do you want to?
Yeah, I think we'll thanks a ton for joining and making our first webinar a success. And we look forward to seeing you next week, where we'd be happy to help any one of you or people that you know as a live case study on how we could help you or them plan your ongoing or forthcoming product launch.
And obviously we can't do it in an hour, but we can make some suggestions.
Right.
We can have a discussion about it and have some discussion about what you're looking to do, etc. And best practices. We've given you best practices. If you remember the right team, the right strategies, it's so important to get the team and the strategy nailed down. And then once you've got your strategy nailed down, think about really how you then implement to that strategy. So if anybody wants the slides particularly, or I say the recording, we'd be happy to share it. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thanks a ton, Lynn. Thank you all, and we'll see you all next week.